Electric vehicles are no doubt the future. They're better for the environment, for many people they can be more convenient, and let's face it, the tech and features that electric vehicles offer are simply unmatched. There are a ton of benefits to owning an electric car. But despite these clear benefits, there is a valid argument to be made that maybe right now in 2022 actually isn't the best time to buy an electric car. And today we're going to be diving deep into this, and I'm going to be outlining why this is the case. Electric vehicles have been an extremely hot topic in the automotive industry, in political policy, with environmental scientists, and more. It's fair to say that EVs have become a true priority over the last couple of years. And in this process, manufacturer after manufacturer has announced plans to go 100% electric in the semi-near future. And the thing is, customers are really leaning into this because over the last couple of years, the EV market has exploded. New EV registrations are growing by the hundreds of thousands here in the United States and by the millions overseas. And the global electric car count has nearly doubled in just a couple of years. If we look at the selection of electric vehicles, the selection is massive. 10 years ago, if you wanted an electric car that actually looked good, your only option was really a Tesla. While today, you have dozens of options to choose from affordable options like the Chevy Bolt or Hyundai Kona, which range in the $35,000 range, to more rugged options like the Rivian R1T, which is my personal favorite EV on the road, which has a starting MSRP of $67,500. And of course, you have some more extravagant options like the Lucid Air, which for its highest trim model has a starting MSRP of $249,000. And these are just a handful of the options that you have today. In the future, there will be dozens of different options to choose from. But despite the wide selection and growing market for EVs, there's a real argument to be made that maybe you shouldn't buy an EV today. And let's kick off this argument by talking about charging networks and charging infrastructures that are set up to support electric vehicles. According to the U.S. Department of Energy, there are approximately 47,243 charging station locations across the United States, and there are approximately 117,800 EVSE ports, which stands for Electric Vehicle Supply Equipment. And the way that you can look at this is a charging station is like the equivalent to a gas station, while the EVSE port is the equivalent to a gas pump. A charging station may have multiple EVSE ports, just like a gas station will have more than one gas pump, but a EVSE ports can only service one vehicle at a time. And I say approximate because the amount of charging stations and EVSE ports throughout the country is increasing on a near daily basis. As of right now, electric vehicle chargers aren't evenly dispersed throughout the United States. The states west of the Mississippi have significantly less charging infrastructure than states east of the Mississippi, with the exception of the West Coast. There's also a lot more infrastructure in major cities than in rural towns. For example, in my home state of Texas, there's a variety of different charging stations to choose from in Dallas, Houston, Austin, and even San Antonio. But once you leave these major cities, the options become much more limited. And the thing is, not all vehicle charging stations are created equal. In the United States, there are 3 different levels of charging. You have level 1 charging, which is when you plug your car into a standard 120 volt wall outlet. This is the most accessible because anyone with a wall outlet can do this, but it's also the least efficient and it's the most time consuming. With this method of charging, you're only able to get about 124 miles of range in just about 20 hours. So though it's accessible, it really isn't practical. Level 2 is the next level up, and this is the most common type of charger we see. You can do this type of charging from your house, but it does require a special type of charger, and it also requires a 240 volt wall outlet. So you will most likely need to get a special outlet installed into your house. Once installed, this can charge your car 3 to 7 times faster than level 1 charging, so you can get a full charge in just a few hours. Whenever you see public chargers in public spaces like parking lots, restaurants, malls, movie theaters, this is more often than not level 2 charging. Lastly is level 3, and this is oftentimes referred to as superchargers or DC fast charging. These are the most convenient, and they can charge a car up to 249 miles of range in less than an hour in some cases. This is the fastest option as far as charging goes, but not every charging station has level 3 charging, and not every electric vehicle has the ability to be charged at level 3 either. Now, according to the EV Charging Infrastructure Summit, which is, you guessed it, a summit that discusses charging infrastructure, over the next few years, there are going to be a lot of changes to how we charge our cars. There's discussions of introducing next generation, smart and more efficient charging ports. There's talks of V2X technology, which is a way that vehicles can communicate with other devices. And the impact that this new technology will have on electric vehicles and charging will be massive. And one day, we could look at having even ultra fast charging, which could be where you charge your vehicle to 100% in the same amount of time it takes to fill up your car with gas. The fact is, we have made huge strides in charging infrastructure for electric vehicles, but we still have a ways to go. And there is a valid concern that as a result of these changes to infrastructure, your EV could quickly become outdated in the way in which it is charged, as well as how quickly it charges. And possibly waiting until this infrastructure matures a little bit could be a decent play. Which brings us to the next point I want to talk about, which is batteries, specifically the price of batteries. Now, don't get me wrong, EVs can be incredibly convenient, especially if you're someone that has access to a charger on a daily or weekly basis. But for some people, an electric vehicle could be a burden depending on your access to a charger, where you store your car, as well as how much you drive. The average EV has a range of about 250 miles, but this range is impacted significantly depending on your driving habits, the climate, as well as what you're using the vehicle for. For example, towing something with an electric vehicle will drastically reduce its range. Driving uphill will also reduce its range, and driving in snow or in windy conditions could also have an impact as well. And though I do think that range is absolutely a factor that needs to be taken into account whenever you're purchasing a vehicle, I don't necessarily think that it's something that should cause you to not buy an electric car. Because the reality is, range and your needs when it comes to EV range is going to be really dependent on your personal habits and your situation. For example, if I was looking to buy an electric car, I could probably easily get away with a car with like 100 miles of range because I work from home and I don't drive a whole lot. But if you're somebody that has kids, if you commute to work, if you drive often, then 100 miles isn't going to cut it. And even in some cases, 250 miles wouldn't cut it. So though range isn't necessarily a negative when it comes to EVs, it is absolutely a factor that needs to be considered. But what's an even larger issue than range itself is batteries, specifically the price of these batteries. One of the first personal computers offered on the market was the IBM PC5150, which features a variety of specs that wouldn't even rival the cheapest, lowest quality computer that you can find in 2022. The cost for this was $1,565, which is the equivalent to $5,000 in today's money. In a way, I think there's a lot of similarities between EV batteries and old school tech. You pay a premium because the tech is new, innovative, and complex to produce, and this is certainly the case today. In fact, in recent months, the price of EV batteries have drastically increased, and as a result, manufacturer after manufacturer has also announced that they will be increasing the price of their EV models. The United States and the world are making large strides to increase, streamline, and improve battery production in vehicles. But the biggest difference may not necessarily be with the specs of the batteries themselves, but it will instead be with the price of those batteries. The outlook for future battery production looks promising, with not only overseas production increasing, but also domestic manufacturing increasing as well. And with this will come a price reduction, or at the very least, a price stabilization of EV batteries, thus stabilizing or even reducing the price of electric vehicles as a whole. And this point is really emphasized with the current climate of, well, everything. Everything is more expensive right now. Production is bottlenecked, and as a result, inventory is tight and prices are high. There is validity behind waiting until battery production ramps back up, thus not only giving you a better battery with potentially more range, but also lowering the price of that battery and thus the price of the car as a whole. And this brings me to the final point of this video, which is the advancement of EV technology. And in my opinion, this is probably one of the biggest reasons as to why you might want to think about waiting to buy an electric car. Cars are becoming more and more like a piece of technology, a computer rather than a traditional vehicle. And there are some short-term negative consequences that come along with that. Think about the first iPhone or the first MP3 player, the first computer. In the first 20 years of these devices, technology has progressed so substantially. But in the process of this progress, technology has become outdated. When we went from the first iPhone to the second to the third, there was a substantial change between these devices, and same could be said for virtually any type of technology. But there comes a time where these technology advancements become less and less substantial and they start to level out a bit. You no longer have to get a new iPhone or a new computer every single year in order to stay up to date with the newest tech, because the difference between these yearly models is relatively minor. This is a major concern with electric vehicles. EVs are shifting, changing, and improving every single year, and chances are if you get an electric vehicle today, that electric vehicle will most likely be outdated to some degree in 5 years, especially as it pertains to batteries, technology, and charging. Now, of course, if you're somebody that wants to buy a new car every few years anyways, then this argument isn't really a valid reason for you at all, because chances are you would have gotten rid of that car far before it became outdated. But if you're somebody like myself who likes to drive cars for an extremely long time, then this could definitely be an issue. Because, for example, I've been driving the same car since I was 16, a 1997 Toyota 4Runner. And sure, this car is outdated, but I don't believe that it's going to be as outdated as the current EVs are in 23, 24, 25 years. Now, like I mentioned in the intro, electric vehicles are no doubt the future. But from a consumer's perspective, whenever it comes to the second largest purchase that they're going to make in their life, which is the purchase of a vehicle, is right now the best time to buy an EV? And the answer is probably not. There are a lot of things that need to be sorted, from batteries to charging infrastructure, tax credits, incentives, pricing, and manufacturing, before electric vehicles will be at the same level as their gasoline counterparts. There is going to be a time where an electric vehicle is a significantly better option compared to a gas-powered car. But I don't know that today is that day. And if I was in the market for an electric vehicle, which to an extent I am, because I think my next personal car will absolutely be an electric one, I think there's a lot of valid reasons why you should wait at least a few years. Because the next few years will be eventful for the electric vehicle industry. The product will get better, prices will come down, and the efficiency will have improved. But like always, you guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, comments, if you have anything to add, I would love to hear it. So make sure to leave a comment down below. And while you guys are at it, make sure to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell. And I will see you guys in the next video.